U.S. attorney, what you want you want the best attorneys you can have in there, and it really, I know you want to, like we said, appearances matter, but you want to win this case, and you need, like you said, it's harder for them.
The courtroom held its breath, silent except for the low, constant hum of the fluorescent lights above, a quiet that buzzed with tension, almost alive. In the center stood Justin Dyer Combs, burdened not just by the weight of his family's infamous name, but by the empire his father built and the devastating truths he was rumored to carry. It felt like something was about to explode, and then it did. In a moment that seemed ripped straight from the climax of a thriller, Justin's knees buckled. The sharp, echoing crack of his body hitting the wooden stand shot through the courtroom, freezing everyone where they stood. Gasps erupted as time seemed to slow, and from his hand, a small USB drive slipped free. It spun in mid-air with an eerie grace, turning once, twice, before it hit the ground with a metallic clatter that sounded louder than the collective shock in the room. For a brief moment, it shimmered under the harsh courtroom lights like a forbidden artifact, and then total blackout. Every camera that had been watching, every lens that had tracked every detail of the trial, suddenly went dead. The feeds vanished. Monitors blinked off. The soft hum of recording devices disappeared into silence. What followed was chaos. Confused, murmurs turned into cries of panic. Someone screamed. Another voice shouted for security. And amid the growing storm of confusion, a single figure moved, not panicked, not rushed, but cold, controlled, and calculated. They slipped through the crowd like a shadow, reached down with a gloved hand, and picked up the USB. No hesitation, no fear. Just quiet precision. Two men in dark suits followed, flanking the figure like trained operatives, and together they
thought that he was above the law. So I can only, think that, he was sloppy in the way that he did these crimes, that there's probably a trail of evidence, not only involving him, but everybody in his circle that he would, delegate these responsibilities to. And those people are when they're
exited through the side doors. No running, no alarm, just gone. By the time the crowd realized what had happened, it was already over. Justin lay unconscious on the floor, and whatever evidence that drive contained had vanished, like it had never existed at all. We have to ask the question, what was on that USB drive? What truth was so volatile, so dangerous, that someone was willing to stage a bold, surgical operation right inside a federal courtroom, under the unblinking eyes of the law? And more importantly, who holds the kind of power to pull this off, without fear, without hesitation, and without consequence? This wasn't a fluke. This wasn't some random act of courtroom chaos. This was something else entirely. A calculated strike, designed to erase the truth before it could ever see the light of day. And in the days that followed, the rumors began to swirl. And let's be honest, in Hollywood, where there's smoke, there's almost always fire. Some say the USB held the key to one of the entertainment industry's most whispered about urban legends, the so-called free vaults, allegedly buried deep inside Diddy's Miami mansion. Now, for those unfamiliar with the myth, let's just say the stories surrounding these vaults are enough to send chills down anyone's spine. According to insiders, Diddy's sprawling estate isn't just a luxury playground for the rich and famous, it's a fortress. Behind its polished walls and celebrity soirees lies something darker, something hidden, a compartment so well protected, no investigator has ever cracked it, said to contain recordings, files, and other evidence capable of not just destroying Diddy's empire, but collapsing an entire network of powerful elites who've attended his infamous gatherings. After the Cassie lawsuit broke, it all started to spiral. The lawsuits, the raids, and then the criminal investigation. So here's the question, was that USB drive a clue? A digital breadcrumb that could lead straight to the vault's contents? Or was it worse, a direct copy of what's hidden inside? If that's true, then it makes perfect sense why someone would want it erased. Because if even a fraction of the rumors are real, what's in that vault isn't just career-ending, it's empire-shattering. And then there's what we've already heard in court, the allegations. That gave rise to the now infamous term, brick-offs. These weren't just wild parties. According to multiple testimonies, they were orchestrated spectacles, controlled environments where guests were allegedly manipulated, coerced, and humiliated, all while cameras captured every second. Cassie Ventura herself testified that Diddy used those recordings like weapons, a form of blackmail, constantly looming over her. "It could ruin everything I worked for," she said during her testimony. And if that's what he held over someone he publicly claimed to love, imagine what else might be buried on those tapes. Imagine who else might be featured in them. The feds, for now, have filed 3 primary charges: racketeering, sex trafficking, and the illegal transportation of a minor. The racketeering charge alone, sweeping, complex hints at something deeper, something more structured. And here's where things turn darker still. Some now believe that the USB wasn't the only target during the courtroom blackout. Eyewitnesses claim that in the chaotic moments after Justin collapsed, the same mysterious figure who vanished with the USB may have moved toward the gallery, directly where the legal team's files were kept. Could they have been after something else? More documents? Another device? Was this just the beginning of a larger cover-up? A cleanup operation before the real storm hits? And yet, the most disturbing piece of all this may be the one that's gone almost unnoticed. The attacker, yes, that attacker, the one who, just moments before Justin collapsed, reportedly approached him in court. Multiple witnesses now say they saw something, a brief, subtle exchange, a whisper, a handoff, something quick, but deliberate. And then, moments later, Justin went down. A whispered phrase, a subtle hand movement, and then Justin crumpled. It was so quick, so precise, it barely registered until it was too late. Was it an injection, a spiked drink, a pressure point? The possibilities are endless. But one thing is certain. The eerie silence from federal agencies investigating the incident has only fanned the flames of speculation. What's even more suspicious is how the supposed attacker, the person seen near Justin just moments before he collapsed, managed to leave the courtroom completely unchallenged. Witnesses claim he was calmly escorted out by men in suits, men who didn't flash badges, but moved with the kind of confidence that said one thing loud and clear: untouchable. At the center of all this chaos was the direct testimony, especially the parts prosecutors fought hard to highlight. The so-called freak-offs. Prosecutors alleged that Diddy forced or coerced her into participating. And while the courtroom was shown glimpses of this horrifying dynamic, many legal experts felt the prosecution failed to close the loop. They presented what she felt but didn't always tie it back with hard evidence. And yet, here's where things take an even darker turn. Multiple sources have pointed toward the existence of a fixer network tied to Diddy, not just personal assistance or security, but a covert team whose sole job is to clean up messes, silence problems, and make scandals disappear before they ever make the headlines. This isn't conspiracy talk. These are people with real connections, insiders embedded across law enforcement, judicial systems, even media. People who can erase surveillance footage like it never existed. People who can make key witnesses vanish without a trace. People who can walk a man out of a federal courtroom in broad daylight without a single camera catching his face. And when the courtroom turned its attention to the racketeering charges, many questioned why just one man was being held accountable, when it was clear that what prosecutors were dealing with was much bigger than a single individual. That said, jurors didn't doubt everything. They found him guilty under the Mann Act. But the racketeering charges, deadlocked, 6-6, hung jury. It's hard not to feel outraged. If something like this bold, this surgical, can happen in a federal courtroom under full public scrutiny. What chance does justice have anywhere else? What chance does truth have in a world where power this fast can twist reality in real time? What we're watching unfold feels larger than a single scandal, larger than a single dynasty. It feels like the slow unraveling of a system built not to protect the innocent but to shield the elite from the consequences of their actions. And yet, we're still left with more questions than answers. Where is Justin Dyer Combs now? How much does he know? And more terrifying, how much can he say before the same forces that silenced him once come back to finish the job? What did the USB actually contain? What do investigators know about the vault, about the recordings, about the people lurking in the shadows? And the most chilling question of all, how far will they go to keep it all buried? Earlier today, in a New York federal courtroom, Sean Diddy Combs stood before a judge and admitted he was a little nervous. The rap mogul's criminal trial officially began. He's facing charges that include trafficking, racketeering, and more. But for many watching, the court proceedings are just the tip of the iceberg. And then there's Cassie. Her testimony wasn't just shocking, it was devastating. A gut-punch reminder of the human cost hidden behind all the glamour, the wealth, the powerful names. We've all heard the rumors, the whispers about the infamous freak-offs, but to hear them from her, in her own words, brought a painful, terrifying clarity. These weren't just elite parties. They were methodical, calculated acts of exploitation. Cassie told the court how Diddy repeatedly reminded her of explicit footage. He had videos recorded without her full consent during those so-called. The courtroom held its breath, silent except for the low, constant hum of the fluorescent lights above, a quiet that buzzed with tension, almost alive. In the center stood Justin Dyer Combs, burdened not just by the weight of his family's infamous name, but by the empire his father built and the devastating truths he was rumored to carry. It felt immense. Footage he used to control her, to humiliate her, to own her. It could ruin everything I worked for, she said, her voice trembling but unwavering. Make me look like I had no worth. Can you imagine that kind of psychological torture? Living every day knowing that one man has the power to destroy you with a single file, a single upload, a single anonymous email. This wasn't just about domination, it was about erasing someone's humanity. reducing a woman to pure leverage. And yet, despite the pressure, despite the fear, she stood in that courtroom, in front of the world, and faced him. It was defiance in its purest form, a crack in the foundation of an empire built on secrecy, silence, and intimidation. But even as her voice inspired thousands, her testimony also reminded us just how far the machine will go to keep the truth hidden. Enter victim 3, or more accurately, her absence. She was meant to be a key voice in the prosecution's case, a witness who, according to court insiders, could have confirmed a damning pattern of behavior that would have blown the trial wide open. But as weeks passed, neither she nor her attorney could be located. Federal prosecutors, pressed by the judge, had to admit it, they didn't know where she was. They had no idea where she was or if she'd ever show up. Victim 3 had been ready to testify under her real name, fully aware of the risks. So what happened? Did she back out, overcome by fear, pressure, or doubt? Or did someone ensure that she was simply, no longer available? It's the kind of question that makes your stomach turn, the kind that lingers long after the cameras stop rolling. The judge has expressed hope that opening statements could begin as early as next week, but that optimism now feels fragile. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His lawyers insist the charges are nothing more than an attempt to criminalize sexual activity that, in their words, was entirely consensual. But let's be honest, the line between consent and coercion can blur easily when one side holds all the power. I know what you're thinking. It sounds like something out of a movie. A witness vanishes just days before testifying. But this isn't fiction. This is real life. And it's happening right in front of us. Could this be the work of Diddy's alleged fixer network? We've heard whispers, rumors of a hidden group operating in the shadows, working tirelessly to silence threats and clean up messes. But if these fixers are real, their reach goes far beyond paying off lawsuits or scrubbing videos from the internet. These aren't PR agents. These are people who can erase individuals, figuratively, and maybe even literally. Let's talk about the filth that's bubbling to the surface in the early days of this trial, the rot that's being unearthed. Surprise, surprise, P. Diddy isn't just a mogul, he's a monster. Victim 3 isn't the first person tied to this case to disappear under strange circumstances. Sources close to the investigation point to a pattern, a disturbing one. Witnesses suddenly unreachable. Attorneys go silent. Evidence evaporates without explanation. Even federal agencies, usually armed with overwhelming resources, seem powerless to stop it, or worse, are willingly looking the other way. And then there's the courtroom blackout, the moment everything went dark, right when it mattered most. Surveillance footage gone. Cameras, microphones, recording equipment, all failed simultaneously. Are we really supposed to believe that was a coincidence? Even more unsettling is the ripple effect this scandal has had on Diddy's family. While Justin's collapse and rumored rebellion thrust him unwillingly into the spotlight, his half-brother, King Combs, has been eerily silent. King, known for mimicking his father's lavish lifestyle and building a music career in his shadow, has gone completely dark. No red carpets, no social media, no interviews. The once flamboyant, ever-present image of King has faded into the background like a ghost of his former self. Why is this self-preservation a calculated distancing from the fallout? Or is his silence something more sinister, a quiet fear that speaking out might make him next? Because let's face it, silence can be complicity, or it can be survival. We're about to take a deep, uncomfortable dive into the world. Diddy built a world that, too many, now looks seedy, depraved, and rotten to the core. And as the trial continues, that carefully curated image of the Combs family, unity, legacy, success is beginning to crack wide open. Insiders say the family is fractured, some still loyal, others quietly fleeing, and a few stuck in the middle, uncertain which side of history they'll land on. Even Diddy's most trusted confidants, people who've stood beside him through scandals and lawsuits, are starting to step back. If this is truly the collapse of an empire, it's not just the public watching, it's his own blood. King's silence speaks volumes, not just because of who he is, but what he represents. He's Diddy's mirror, his legacy and training, from music to fashion to public persona. He's long been seen as the prince of the Combs empire, but with the revelations now pouring out, that connection may no longer be an asset, it may be a ticking time bomb. So the question remains, is King distancing himself to protect his future, or is he haunted by the fear that he knows too much? Either way, his absence creates a deafening void, one filled with speculation, suspicion, and unanswered questions. Is he a criminal in the making? Is he a pawn? Or is he trying, desperately, to escape something darker? And what about the rest of the family? Diddy's twin daughters, once shielded from the spotlight, are now growing up under the shadow of these monstrous allegations. How do they reconcile the man they call dad with the man being accused of blackmail, manipulation, and systematic abuse? These questions don't just haunt headlines, they haunt families. The cost isn't just legal, it's emotional, it's generational. For a family built on wealth, fame, and influence, the real threat isn't just the trial. It's the legacy that could shatter beneath it. Because generational wealth often comes hand in hand with generational trauma. And the Combs family, it seems, is no exception. The silence, the fractures, the disappearing allies. All signs that this isn't just a legal war, it's a battle for identity, for the soul of a dynasty. And as the trial unfolds, the biggest question may not be whether Diddy is guilty, but whether anyone from the Combs dynasty will step forward to confront the truth, or whether the silence will continue to speak louder than words. And then the next twist. The parade of celebrity names expected to surface in the courtroom. Some, household names. Some, total surprises. Whispers of Mike Myers, yes, that Mike Myers, of Austin Powers fame, appearing on the witness list, have already raised eyebrows. Why him? What did he see? What did he know? And beyond the stars, there are the unnamed women, the forgotten voices, who must now summon every ounce of courage to stand up, speak out, and confront one of the most powerful figures in the entertainment world. And when we zoom out, when we look at the bigger picture, it becomes painfully clear. This was never just about Diddy. This is something bigger, something systemic. What we're witnessing isn't just the unraveling of one man's empire. It might be the long overdue exposure of an entire machine, one built on exploitation, maintained through fear, and protected by power. On the surface, he's just the face, the figurehead. But the real question is, who's standing behind him, pulling the strings? Who benefits from keeping these secrets buried? And more importantly, how far will they go to make sure the truth never escapes? Which brings us right back to Justin. His collapse in that courtroom wasn't just a medical emergency. It was symbolic, a fracture, a fault line splitting open in real time. Was it the weight of guilt finally crushing him? Was it fear, or was it something else entirely? Some are beginning to ask a far more unsettling question. Was Justin's collapse intentional, a desperate act, a silent message delivered in the only way he could, without saying a word? Let's not forget, Justin didn't grow up on the outside looking in. He was born into this, raised within the walls of power, privilege, and secrecy, molded by the very empire now crumbling around him. Maybe he was complicit once. Maybe he knew more than he let on. But something changed. In the months leading up to the trial, insiders say he grew distant, cold, withdrawn. Rumors swirled that he had gained access to the vaults. Yes, those vaults, the ones hidden inside Diddy's Miami mansion, said to contain the most damning footage, files, and truths of all. Could Justin have been the one who copied those secrets onto the USB drive? Could he have been planning to detonate the very system he was born into? If so, was it justice he wanted? Revenge? Or was he just trying to break free to escape the gravity of a legacy that was slowly pulling him under? Whatever his reasons, one thing is certain. His fall wasn't the end of the story. If anything, it was the beginning. Because, if that USB is gone, if it was taken, and those secrets are still out there, then the people who want them buried aren't finished. Not even close. They'll protect themselves by any means necessary, their reputations, their wealth, their freedom. And if Justin Diddy's own son isn't safe from the shadows now circling, then ask yourself, who is S? So now, we leave you with this. How deep does this rabbit hole go? How many more secrets are waiting to be uncovered? And when the time comes, who will be brave enough to bring them into the light? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, Sometimes, the truth is darker than we ever imagined.